This is Bennett Hunter, aka the Canadian Libertarian. And since Donald Trump seems to be the go-to narrative these days, well, I think it's important that we, those of us in the liberty movement, those of us that care about freedom and liberty, we start to discuss and debate what this whole endeavor means, what it means to support Trump or not support Trump. Everyone's going to have their own personal preference or opinions regarding what's right and what's wrong. But let's be honest here. There are certain things that every one of us, purist, minarchist, or anywhere in between, that have to take into account is we all live in the real world. You know, we can all pretend what a utopian society, what true liberty would represent. Of course that's important. That's our final goal. That's our ultimate endeavor. But we all have to function in the real world that now exists. You know, you can't close your eyes, you can't plug your ears and make it all go away. We have to function in the real world that we now currently live in. And in the real world we currently live in, you have many, many forces at work that are trying to use politics or the mysticism of government to control societies. Neither one of them, in my opinion, as someone that I consider myself to be, I guess, a purist, neither one of them sound good as far as I'm concerned. But in reality, that lesser of evil arguments is going to play out whether I like it or not. That's always going to play out in every human being. When someone is offered or presented with an option, do you want to be whipped 10 times or do you want to be whipped one time? I think every human being alive will always choose to be whipped one time instead of 10. Purists like myself prefer that nobody's fucking ever whipped. That's just reality, and I think most even minarchists would accept it and understand that reality. But once again, we have to function in the current environment that we live in. Now, for the political zealots that do their thing and want to always delve into the religion of politics and make the system entrenched, yeah, those people, yeah, fuck you cocksuckers, fuck you bitches, I don't want nothing to do with any of you people. But those in the liberty movement, and I don't care if it's anyone, Cantwell, Kokesh, anyone else, I don't care what side of the political spectrum of, I know we're all at the very least, if we can all agree on one thing, is we're trying to reduce and ultimately eliminate force and coercion and theft in our lives. We have many different ways that we can implement and bring that to fruition, but nobody has a monopoly on how that is ever going to come to be. If we all think that we understand or we have the perfectionist way how that's going to come to be, that means that does that not make you an authoritarian? Yeah. In reality, no one has monopoly on intelligence and intellect or how freedom is ever going to come to exist. As much as I'm against minarchism, human freedom in history gained successively in small increments because of minarchism. So I'll accept that has its place. But I'll never sway, and for those who present the arguments opposing my purist ideology, I'll just say that yes, I wish you the best. I wish you the best. I hope you can help bring humanity closer to freedom and liberty by using the state against the state. But don't think that it's going to ever change my mentality from recognizing that using force and coercion is wrong and inherently immoral at every stage of the game.
I'm Matt Hunter for the Anarchist Podcast, and I'm going to be coming from the aspect I think it's very libertarian to vote for Donald Trump. I feel that with the major divide with Trump and Hillary Clinton, that Trump is no libertarian. Obviously, I'm a host of the Anarchist podcast, so I philosophically understand that government's immoral, taxation is theft, understand the philosophy and the principles behind liberty. But what we need to realize is there's major differences between having a Trump presidency in office versus a Hillary. And Trump's no libertarian, but I believe the erosion of our rights and freedoms under a Hillary Clinton presidency versus a Trump is going to be massively different. Not to mention, Democrats are known for being very generous with the purse. They spend a lot more. They inflate the debt a lot more than conservatives, and especially a Trump presidency versus a Hillary. So I, as a young man and still hasn't started a family yet, I got to worry about the national debt and all these things that's going to be tackled onto me and my future children. So do I want it to be the debt it is now, or, if with a Hillary it's going to be double that, or, like my father just stated, do you want to be slapped once or slapped 10? And this is the debate I see in the divide in the libertarian movement. You got the purists who don't even want to get involved in politics, and that's fine. We understand politics is a dirty game, it's immoral, it's corrupt, that's fine. But you need to realize that we live in a world where a president will be elected in the fall. It's not going there. We're not to the point where we've awakened the political masses to the point where they understand, a majority of the people understand liberty yet. We're not quite there yet. It's growing, but a president will be elected in the fall, and we need to make sure that a president that gets elected in the fall is one that's going to push more freedom and libertarian values. And I think Trump's pro-Second Amendment versus Hillary, who's not pro-Second Amendment. He's more conservative with the budget. He wants to make good business deals. All these things are not quite libertarian principally, but they're going to push us towards a more freer society than underneath the Hillary Clinton. And that's the reality of the situation.
Right on. And you know what? And like I've said, and anyone that follows my channel, I'm against voting. Obviously, I don't believe in political masters. But, as my son just stated, reality is going to exist no matter how much we hate the kind of situation we're stuck in. And the fact of the matter remains that when it comes to speaking from principles, they only work in a vacuum. If you're living in a situation where you actually have objective reason and logic, which is the side that I come from, and the people that I choose to surround myself with are those people. But if we're all objectively honest with each other, because if you're a libertarian, you have to use objective reason and logic, not fucking emotional bullshit. And in reality, what have we really brought about? What's the real change we've brought about in our own minds, in the people that have come to realize what liberty represents? Yes, those people, and I love every one of them. I love every one of you guys that are out there and girls that understand fully what being an individual and what liberty is all about. But we're just a little teeny little sliver, just a small little portion. We have big voices, we're strong, we have capabilities that most people don't, but it's not enough. It's just not enough. You need to get to the point where you have, there is a certain point where you need enough people to accept and embrace the true fundamental principles and philosophy of liberty. We haven't reached that critical mass. And anyone that tries to tell themselves that at this stage of the game is completely lying to themselves and anyone else they're trying to propagate that shit with. So in reality, while I personally, you won't see me, well, first of all, I'm Canadian, so it's not like it's going to fucking matter anyways, but yeah, I wouldn't be pulling the trigger. I won't be fucking pulling the lever. I wouldn't, even if I was America, I wouldn't be pulling the lever for Trump. But for those who do, I'm still always going to tell you, I'm still going to say, I'm still going to pound those principles of liberty as much as I can. But I will not, condemn or have a vitriol or hatred for those who are just trying to reduce the amount of pain and hardships that are being imposed on them right now. In reality, I don't think that particular endeavor is going to bring about the liberty that the minarchists or those that are using that shield. I don't think that's going to bring about the kind of liberty. I personally believe that it's a multiple successive generations. It's not something that's going to happen quickly, but no one wants to hear that. Let's be honest. Everyone wants the quick fix. Who wants to wait 2 or 3 generations to see how real liberty would come to fruition? Well, first of all, I wouldn't even be alive, so I wouldn't even get to gain or benefit from what I'm doing today. So like I said, let's us in the liberty movement, let's all of us accept and embrace the reality of the situation we live today. Now, if you're a purist like myself, yes, don't sell your soul out. Don't sell your morals. Don't sell your values. But don't be the loudest fucking voices out there, whether it's on the internet, in the real world, or anywhere else. Don't be the ones to hate on the ones that are trying to find their own ways to minimize the coercive entity, aka government, in their lives. I understand. I realize even people on the left with their stupid Bernie Sanders support, they're coming at it from a totally fucked up perspective. I get that because they come from the collective mentality. But that's the thing that we always got to recognize too is look at the difference. Look at the stark contrast between those in the collective movement and those of us in the liberty movement. Whether it's me and my son or 1,000 other people that I have been friends with or are currently friends with in the liberty movement, we all have individual minds. We all have arguments and arbitrary decisions that we have that are conflicting with each other. But to me, that's great. That's a good thing. Because if we were all speaking with one voice, well, we would be nothing more than what we're opposing, a collective. Someone that aren't thinking critically, they're just going along to get along. So I'm glad. I accept, I embrace the fact that we have, disputes among us. That tells me that, yeah, we're all still using our own critical minds and our own voices to speak truth to reason. But can we at least set aside, at the very least, the only thing I want, the only thing I expect from everyone else is to at least keep at the foremost in our mind who the true opponents, who the real enemies are to liberty. Not those of us, even the minarchists. I might disagree with a lot of minarchists, but I'll hold them much closer to me than anyone fucking else that's out there. I look and I see that the minarchists, even though they might not promote the same purist ideology that I do, I know that those are people that I could sleep better at night knowing that they're alive and they're around. They're not near the fucking force of coercion against me. I don't have to worry about them per se, or at least minimalist. I don't have to worry about them in the same kind of form or fashion that I have to worry about with the collectivists, with the lefties, that'll just go along to get along no matter what their political masters tell them, no matter what they say.
We also got to take into account that the psychology behind it of most libertarians and people like us who are in the liberty movement, we're strong, independent people, and we think for ourselves. But that's the minority. The majority of the population are followers. They listen to people in authority. If they didn't listen to people in authority, well, things like government and mysticism of government wouldn't exist. People listen to authority, but sadly, majority of the people are followers, like I just stated. And when you have someone in the office, like a Hillary Clinton, who's getting up there and doing these presidential speeches and stuff and saying to the population of America, promoting anti-gun laws and inflating the debts and promoting wars and promoting welfare states and all that, that's going to affect the psychology of the American population. The majority of the people who just like to listen because, oh, it's the president said this, so it's got to be right. Versus a Trump who's out there promoting Second Amendment, good business deals, the free market. That is going to, I feel, also seep into the minds of the majority because he is the president and they might have some more pull with him. So you got to also take into account the effect of the masses. Us libertarians, we come at it as like, oh, well, it's just the president. No matter what he says, that we can wipe it off. We know it's all bullshit. But that's not how majority of the people think. Majority of the people listen to people in authority and power. And I think there would be a massive difference in the erosion of freedoms versus the Trump and Hillary Clinton presidency. And what's very going to piss me off is if Trump ends up losing by a small minority, and that small number literally is the libertarians who just sat home, purists who didn't want to get involved in politics. And because they chose to not get involved, that small victory now goes to a Hillary Clinton supporter or a Hillary Clinton presidency, and then it leads to higher national debt that we're going to have to deal with, more erosions of our freedoms that we're going to have to try and tackle back. We want to get closer to freedom, and I feel we're going to get closer to freedom through Trump rather than a Hillary Clinton. That's pretty obvious.
And my response to that, as much as I agree with most of it, is that us purists, I mean, let's be honest here, people. We're such a small number that whether we delve into the fray or not that's not going to make a difference. It's not going to make one iota difference. But I think the most important thing that those of us in the liberty movement can espouse is the individual. Promoting the individual, not collective groupthink. Let everyone choose their own path to freedom. Whatever, let the free market of ideas exist. And whichever one wins, let it happen. We're all, no matter what, if you have the biggest state on the planet or a minimalist state, we're all going to have to defend ourselves against such, no matter what size it is. But I'd rather defend myself against a smaller state than the most entrenched. I mean, look at what we live in today. This is what I've said this on a couple different occasions, but I don't think I've iterated enough, and I'm going to try it right now, is we're on a fast track. Think about it. We're on the fucking highway to hell right now, and nobody's even hitting the brakes. I don't give a shit if you want to, like, minarchists are looking to just slow the car down. I personally, I would love to fucking drop it in reverse, do a fucking 180 and pull back and drive, right? Okay, but I'm still going to say, I'm still going to like the people that at least going to hit the fucking brakes. I don't give a shit as much as, I might be a little more daring from when you're traveling at high rate of speed. It's much more daring to throw that motherfucker up in reverse, do a 180 and hope that you can get it back going the other way. The minarchists are saying, let's at least start hitting the brakes. Well, I at least have to agree with them at that point, because at the stage of the game we're at now, the lefties or anyone else that's not thinking critically or that are using the power of mysticism or the state as their means to an end, they want to hold their fucking foot to the pedal. They want to keep that shit going, and for the most part, they're winning. We're running down that road to hell at speeds that are fucking reckless and dangerous. I don't care how we're going to get there, but we got to start to put on the brakes and start heading back the other way. So no matter how you look at it, philosophically or principally, if you're trying to hit the brakes and head the other way, you're okay as far as I'm concerned.
And politics, it's not only just the concept of government and politics. Also, media plays a huge, huge role in convincing the masses of the legitimacy of government. And say what you want about Trump, he's anti-media. He gets up there and when they say, a reporter asks a question and they say they're from CNN, he just, what's CNN? CNN's nobody. And that is going to be very damaging to the media, especially if that's the president. And the president of the United States is literally telling you that MSNBC, CNN are bullshit media companies who like to lie to you. That's going to do a lot of for the liberty movement, because it's the media who convinces people with their leftist ideology, constantly pushing it through their stories, convincing the masses that government's a good thing. So if you got a president who's anti-media, plus he's anti-special interests, the majority of the problem in Washington is too much money and them doing insider deals and paying off politicians, and money gets involved in politics, ruins everything. We all know that. Trump's tearing those boundaries down. So he's anti-media and he's not taking any special interest. You get a guy in office like that for 8 years, constantly ripping on CNN and special interests, it's going to be hard to now elect a president after Trump who's going to go in there and be able to collect special interests and work for and listen to CNN. So it's just going to be able to push the masses into a more libertarian mindset that it's going to be hard now to put them back into leftist paradigm, where Hillary Clinton, you're just going to get the same old, same old. We know what we're going to get with Hillary. Let's at least try to go with Trump and see what happens. What's the worst case that can happen? Guarantee it's not going to be any worse than what you're going to get with Hillary. So might as well throw the vote to Trump is what I would do.
So there you go. And there you have it. As everyone knows in the liberty movement, we've all got our own minds. We've all got our own subjective opinions and preferences and how we want things to come to fruition. But in reality, we all know that the only way, if you have the power to impose your will on everyone else, well, you're no better than any other authoritarian on the fucking planet. So let's let the ideas, let's let them flourish. Let's let, this whole situation play out how it's going to play. And, of course, I mean, for those of you, whether it's Kokesh versus Heathen, or whether it's anyone else in the liberty movement, and I've seen it, I've actually been part of it, we can keep this fight going as much as we want, as long as we always understand, accept, and embrace the fact that there are those of us that are truly principled and are trying to point each other in the right direction. And at least we have people on our side that may not fully understand and embrace, or may not fully take that same stance or position, but they are, I guess it's a terrible thing to say, but they are those of us that we need to concern ourselves with the least. Stop using, the fact that liberty-loving human beings have their own minds. Stop using that as the base premise for you to hate on them. Hate on the people that are really looking to use the power and mysticism of government against you. At least you know anyone that's promoting liberty or that identifies themselves properly as libertarians, whether they're minarchists or purists, at least acknowledge and accept, although hold each one of them individually to account. That's the thing. If you recognize that someone's lying to you and they're being devious in their intents, yeah, call them out. But for the most part, I think we all understand, accept, and realize that people are just trying to choose the lesser of evils. And as a purist, I'll say that yes, that's not what's going to bring about true liberty. But they're not the people we need to be hating on. They're not the people that we need to be thrown to the wolves. As much as I'm not a fucking fan of Heathen or a couple other of these fuckers that have tried the political bullshit, and I've made videos in the past calling them out, but that's only to help. That's only to help them. That's only to keep their morality in check. That's only to put that, because if they have guilt, if they have a guilty conscience, it means they have morality, and if they adhere to that, and I think most of them will, they will have an internal conflict with what they're even doing right now. So that's okay. But let's at least show some small semblance of solidarity in any way that we can with those that are at least trying to put the brakes on. I'm not a fucking fan of Cantwell. Maybe never have, maybe never will be. But I don't look at him in the same light as I would from someone that wants to use the mysticism, the power, the force, the coercion of government at all times to control and dictate my life or to plunder my productive wealth and my capacity. Let's at least respect each other in some semblance, in some manner, for what we're doing, for what we're all trying to accomplish. All of our endeavors cumulatively will ultimately bring about peace and freedom and liberty. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.
This is the Anarchist Podcast. Matt Hunter signing off.